The late afternoon sun had dipped low behind the trees, and the autumn air in Meadowbrook County bit at your cheeks like icy fingertips. A thin veil of mist curled between the trunks, transforming familiar oaks into looming shadow. It had been nearly 12 hours since Emma Carter, only 5 years old, vanished into that dense wilderness. Every minute that passed sent the mercury tumbling further, and with darkness closing in, Hope felt as fragile as the fallen leaves underfoot. Would Emma's small, frightened voice echo through these woods tonight, or would the night swallow her whole? Just as the searchers began to doubt, a silhouette emerged at the forest's edge. Pandora, the once unstoppable German shepherd, stepped into the clearing. Rumour had it she'd led over 800 successful rescues, but tonight her grey muzzle and laboured breath spoke of time's unrelenting march. 8 years of relentless service had carved their toll on her spine like ridges in the earth and left her heart struggling to keep pace. James Morrison knelt beside her, his weathered hand finding her flank. "Oh, one last time, girl," he whispered, grit and plea threading his voice. Pandora inhaled deeply, nostrils flaring, then slipped down into the underbrush, determination glinting in her tired eyes. The search team had laid out a tight grid, but Pandora paid no mind to their neat lines. She moved as if guided by some ancient compass, her nose searing a trail through a tapestry of scents, damp leaves, crushed pine needles, distant streams. James followed every step, knowing from years of partnership that his instincts mattered less than hers now. Behind them, other handlers and dogs swept methodically through the woods, their voices fading like ghosts on the wind. Each footstep, each rustle of brush whispered that time was slipping through their fingers. Yet Pandora held a fierce stillness in her stride, an urgency that pulled James deeper into the forest. Suddenly, a sharp pinprick of pain clenched her chest. Pandora's gait faltered, a low whimper wobbling from her throat. James crouched, fear knotting his stomach, but with a single resolute breath, Pandora planted her paws and pushed on. The ache bloomed like a shadow across her ribs, but she clenched her teeth against it. She could not, would not stop. For somewhere in these trees a little girl waited, too young to know fear but old enough to need a hero. As twilight bled into night, Pandora halted. James nearly collided with her still form, heart hammering. She lowered her nose to the forest floor, eyes narrowing, chest heaving. Then, swift as a striking viper, she jerked forward, leading James toward a knot of branches. There, hooked on a low-hanging bough, fluttered a scrap of pink fabric dotted in white. Emma's scarf, James realized, and relief and dread tangled in his throat like briars. He snapped his radio to life. E. Morrison here found Emma's scarf, off the grid heading west. The static crackled back then, a copy that. Stay on her, beyond them the wood grew darker, denser, the mist waltzed around their boots, and every breath emerged in quick puffs, visible in the lantern light. Pandora's ears twitched at the slightest rustle. Fear and hope clashed in her senses. She could smell Emma, but lurking with that scent was a whisper of terror. Something had driven the child off the path, had left her stranded in cold and shadow. Still, Pandora threaded through gnarled roots and broken branches, guided by a single purpose: find the girl before night stole her warmth forever. Footprints appeared in the slick earth, a ragged zigzag of tiny soles. Emma must have stumbled, each step a testament to her weakening strength. James bent to examine them, breath caught in his chest. He glanced at Pandora, whose paws shook beneath her coat, yet not once did she slow. Then a soft shuddering whimper floated through the darkness. Pandora's hackles rose, and she bounded toward the sound with every ounce of her fading power. Moments later, they burst through a thicket into a small clearing. Beneath an ancient oak, Emma huddled, curls plastered to her tear-stained face. Her lips were tinged blue, arms wrapped tight around her trembling frame. James's heart convulsed, and so did Pandora's. The dog staggered forward, nose brushing Emma's ice-cold fingers. A whimper escaped Pandora's throat, equal parts triumph and anguish. Emma flickered awake and whispered, "A doggy?" as James swept her into his arms. But before he could cradle her, Pandora pressed closer, pressing her warmth against the little girl, offering every scrap of heat she had left. James pulled off his jacket, wrapping it snugly around Emma's shoulders. "I've got you, sweetheart," he murmured, voice thick. Emma's eyes fluttered, then closed, too drained to smile. Hypothermic but alive, James radioed. Ascend medics now. Pandora's tail thumped weakly, each wag costing her. Her breath came in rapid gasps, and James saw the deep lines etched in her sides. Pain flickered across her eyes, yet she remained sentinel, Emma's guardian, steadfast to the end. Not long after, flashing lights bobbed through the trees like will-o'-the-wisps. Paramedics raced forward, securing Emma onto a stretcher and cocooning her in thermal blankets. A severe hypothermia. One medic called out, "And let's get her out." But as they prepared to lift Emma, Pandora sank to the ground. A collective gasp rippled through the team. James dropped beside her, hands shaking as he pressed against her side. Her breaths were shallow stutters, her head lolling. It was as if she'd given every last ounce of herself to save Emma, and now she had none left. "Hold on, girl," James whispered between tears, stroking her fur. The medic's voice crackled in his ear. "A child stabilized. We'll need transport." James looked up to see Emma's small face peering from the blankets. She pointed at Pandora with a faint gasp. "A doggy?" That single word seemed to breathe life back into the old shepherd. Pandora's ears flicked, and with monumental effort, she lifted her head and offered a soft, raspy whine. Emma smiled with all her dwindling strength, and James wept quietly as paramedics lifted both onto a stretcher, one child and one hero. The hospital's night shift was a quiet vigil. In one bed lay Emma Carter, colour slowly blooming back into her cheeks beneath layers of blankets. At her side, Pandora rested on a special cot, eyes half closed but alert. A veterinarian delivered the difficult news. "She's stable, but her heart can't handle this kind of exertion anymore. She needs rest, no more missions." Emma reached out, stroking Pandora's fur, and the dog responded with a gentle tail thump. "She's my hero," Emma breathed. James, seated nearby, offered a watery smile. "She's mine too." Over the next weeks, the hospital became a sanctuary of love and recovery. Emma visited every day, dragging her fee pole beside Pandora's cot. With each arrival, Pandora's ears would perk, and that trusted tail would wag weakly but surely. They shared breakfast juice boxes in bed, soft laughter echoing off sterile walls. James often watched from the doorway, heartful and breaking at once. Pandora no longer chased scents through forests or battled pain to save strangers. Instead, she basked in newfound rest, her golden years gently unfolding like petals in sunlight. At last, the day came when they were discharged together. Emma clutched Pandora's leash, tiny sneakers crunching over the hospital parking lot gravel. Pandora's steps were slow now, but steady, homebound at last. James carried the medical papers in one hand, Emma's hand in the other, and Pandora walked between them, her head held high. As they crossed into the crisp morning light, the forest, once their battleground, felt like part of a distant dream. They returned to Meadowbrook County, a family reborn, bound by a miracle born of a dog's unwavering spirit. Emma bounced ahead, chattering about flowers and butterfly wings, while James followed with Pandora moving at his side. The old shepherd paused at the sight of the tree line, nostrils flaring as if to say farewell. Then finally she turned to James and rested her head on his leg. No longer a search and rescue dog, Pandora was now a cherished companion, her legend sealed in the hearts of a family she saved. And as they stepped toward home, the dawn painted the sky in soft hues of gold and rose, promising rest, recovery, and the warm comfort of love earned through courage. Pandora had given her all for one last rescue, and now, surrounded by those she saved and who adored her, she would truly find peace.